Shark here, I did I did the recording, and then it came out, and I found out I wasn't credited, and so when they called me back and said they wanted to do the King Shark episode, I said to my agent, "Well, could I get credit on that?" And they were kind enough to do that. So I went in to record it, and for 16 years, people have been asking me, doesn't the snake voice hurt your throat? And I'm like, no, I could do that all day. Well, the King Shark voice almost tore my larynx out. I was like,
Wow.
I was like, because I do all the growls, I do all the roars, and they process it, but it's essentially, talking like this, screaming at my face. And it was the first time that I ever came home and couldn't speak. Like I literally. My voice was gone for 2 days, and so. But it's so badass, and it's such an awesome character that it's worth it.
Yeah, the CGI in that episode was surprisingly good. I mean, King Shark came to life really well on TV. Did you guys do any mocap for that at all, or did you just sort of watch what was being done and then record it over that, or did they base the CGI off of what you did?
No, no, I am tall, but I'm not that tall. And so, no, it's all done. When I record it, I got to see the episode, but it was all essentially previs King Shark. So he'd just stand like this, and then he'd turn, and his whole body would sort of like spin around, and he'd roar at people. So I'd know where he was and essentially what he was doing, and I got an idea of when he was like standing up or doing whatever he was doing. But no, that was all the animators, and I agree, the CG on it was so far beyond what you would expect on television.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But no, I kind of do it to a cartoony sort of stick.
Gotcha. How much of the voice was digitized? Because it was so deep that I was like, like you said, it strained your voice a lot. And I guess how much of that voice was modified a bit to match King Shark? Or was that all like just pure exactly how you recorded it?
No, I mean, when I first heard him, I wasn't credited, I wasn't entirely sure it was me.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, okay, well, is that me? And he did a little laugh, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like me. I'm a better actor than that. But apparently I wasn't. So that was good to know. And no, it's it's processed. I mean, the voice, when I do it, it's you're fast, Flash, but not as fast as I am in water. So it's like that. So there's a lot of echo they put on it. There's a lot of sort of deep reverb they put on it.
Yeah.
But the choppiness of the voice and the intention of the performance is me. They also had me do it a little New York. I don't know why, because he's from Hawaii, but it makes him sound a little dumber, like, Zoom wants you dead. That sort of thing. So that's how it comes together. But then they do things to it in the computer to make it sound really badass that I can't do.
Right. And final question for that segment, can we expect more of King Shark in the future? Because they did leave it kind of open-ended. He didn't, like, die or anything. He was captured.
I got electrocuted, and I have to say, on a personal level, I was really disappointed that I didn't get to kill the Flash. I really wanted to at least take a chunk out of him, and I'm hoping for another shot. I don't know. I mean, they don't tell me that he's coming back or not. But he's King Shark, and there's Gorilla Grodd, and there's some big, we're some of the heavy hitters. They keep showing me in the opening credits. So I would imagine that, when things really get hairy, he might come back.
Sounds awesome. Cool. Hopefully he will.
Let's hope.
Yeah. I definitely would like to see that. Ronan, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready to go.
All right, no pressure.
All right, so as you mentioned earlier, David, you talked about how you were one of the voices in Far Lands, which is the new Oculus Rift game that came out this week. So my question is, can you tell us a little bit more about what that game is about and what your role in it is?
Yeah, the game is out.
I believe it launched this week with the Rift that happened earlier this week as well.
Okay, yeah, because I never know what I can talk about, what I can't.
That's okay.
Well, Farlands is essentially. So I went in to record it, and they brought in an Oculus Rift, and they put it on me, and it was
Cool.
essentially a Paul McCartney concert. It wasn't essentially.
Oh, I
it
heard
was
about
Paul
that.
McCartney.
Yeah.
So I'm standing on the stage, and Paul McCartney is like right here playing the piano next to me. But I can turn around, I can see the audience, and there's some guy taking a picture. I can see security, hassling somebody down here, and it's really cool. The technology is just, but then it switches camera angles, and it's like you teleport from one part of the stadium to another, and suddenly you're flying like way up above the thing, and it's really, it's fully immersive. It's very, very cool. So. Basically, what Farlands is a way to step into a fully animated sci-fi world, and your goal is to walk around and sort of document the world and discover, some scientific realities about the creatures and how this world came together. And what I play is this alien scientist named Dr. Klug, who essentially dispatches you on these missions and then judges you harshly for messing them up. So you sort of, and it's a very unusual voice for me. It was.
Yeah, I was gonna say your tone is different.
Yeah,
it's like very judgmental, and he's like a sort of alien version of somebody who might be on Frasier or something like that. So that's what I do, and then Maria Bamford plays this little floating computer robot character that follows you around and sort of backs you up, and she's super cool and funny. And that's what it is. And it's you take a look at the trailer, and it's its own world, and really
cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I was really taken back by the fact that no one really recognized your voice at first when that trailer came out, and everyone was like, that's not David Hayter, is it? And you had to come out on Twitter and formally announce that you were in the game, which I thought was really awesome.
Yeah. Well, the other thing was, so I auditioned for it, and I didn't see the character, and so I came in and I sort of did like a absent-minded scientist and that sort of thing, this kind of accent, this mid-Atlantic accent. And then we saw him. He's only he's like this big, and so I was like. So it was Chris Zimmerman directing, who did all the Metal Gears.
Yeah,
and
we just interviewed a couple months ago.
Right. So we were like, well, he's kind of a small guy, so he's probably going to be, way up here, and blah, blah, blah. And that's how it came together. So it was a very cool opportunity to play something very, very different from what I typically.
You seem to do that a lot, where you audition with a voice and then you change it up. Like you look at the character and then you're like, actually, I think you'd do it like this. Like with Solid Snake, you told us the gruff was added after you found out more about the character.
Yeah, after I read the script. So well, that's what happens. You come in with one thing. Same with King Shark. He wasn't from New York when I did him, but we sort of figured that out in the booth, and the director was saying, why don't you try with a little New York accent? And I was like, yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. And there we were, and it kind of gave him this whole thing. So, that's part of the fun of developing it. But it's very funny because I probably wouldn't even have auditioned if I'd have known he was only 2 feet high. I'd have been like, well, they're never going to hire me. But they did, so you
very
never know.
cool.
That's awesome.
That it, Ronan?
Yeah, that's it. You guys can keep the show rolling, I guess.
Right. Awesome. Well, I actually kind of want to switch gears a little bit, David. A lot of
switching gears.
Yeah, we're switching gears. A lot of outlets and podcasts and stuff that you've been on kind of focus on Metal Gear, but I recently got really into your role in the Star Wars games, the Knights of the Old Republic, which is the MMO. Prior to an expansion pack that was recently released, it wasn't as like story focused as maybe a lot of the fans wanted it to be. But this recent expansion that you did, it had so much depth and so much like single player story content. You had a lot of lines in there. Can you tell us a little bit about recording a game like Star Wars in an MMO format where they, call you back to do more and add more and more? Because this game's been out for, I think it's going to be 5-6 years now.
It's been a while.
It's longer than that.
Yeah.
I asked them a little while back, maybe a year ago. I was like, how long have we been doing this? It's like 2 years. And they said, it's been 7 years.
Yeah,
So,
that sounds more correct. Yeah, it's been a long time, and that's what I like is you get to kind of build this Jedi character, and you deliver the lines in a way to where like it's not. You can kind of imprint yourself onto the Jedi character,
Like an everyman's voice kind of thing.
exactly.
yeah, very much. And they didn't want it to be Snake, so there's no gravel, and it's really my attempt at a classic hero voice. So yeah, ideally anybody can imprint on it, young or old or whatever, but I try to infuse it with my own, warrior drive, my own sort of badass nature, and so that you can kind of experience what it's like to be me, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so thank you for saying. Yeah, so I got that job again through Jennifer Hale. They had another guy who was doing it, and then they wanted to sort of change the voice, and she said, well, how about David Hayter? And they brought me in. And what they found was, from what I understand, it's not really playing. They thought it would play like World of Warcraft, where you just go into the world and you play it again and again and again and again. Yeah. The Star Wars players really wanted more story, and so that's how that came about. So they, keep coming out with these expansion packs and different worlds, and and fortunately they bring me back in to do the Jedi voice. But the interesting thing about that is, when we would do Metal Gear, we would do it scene by scene, and not always in order, but in some sense of order. And they would bring in actors, and we'd do it like a movie and play it. Here, it's BioWare, so you get this, the mechanics of having to choose your response, light side, neutral, or dark side responses. Right. And so all of that is recorded out of order. So but they do such a great job in constructing it that when you watch the videos, it looks like we're talking to each other. Yeah. But we're not. It's like I have to figure out what was said to me just prior and where I'm at in the scene to make it sound like we're having a conversation. Right. But what it really is just me reading 1,000 lines in a row that are unconnected. So it's a very unusual process, but I'm such a Star Wars fan that to be a part of that and to be able to say that I'm a master Jedi is pretty
Now, if I may ask, what do you think of Force Awakens?
Oh, I loved it. I really loved it. Yeah. I thought it was so badass. I saw it twice in the theaters, which I don't really do so much anymore because I don't have time. And the second time I was watching it, well, let's just say one of the characters reaches out and the lightsaber flies into his or her hands, and I hooted so loud in the theater that my daughter actually yelled at me. She's like, "Jesus, Daddy!" Come on. I'm like, "What?"
That's great.
Okay, well, all right. I was going to show you my daughter, but she ran out.
No problem.
Okay, she might be back.
Yeah, that was the...
But in any case, so I loved it. And let me just say to all the people who are like, oh, he just copied the first movie or whatever. I'm like, first of all, thank God he took what he took from the first movie and returned to an actual Star Wars film. And second, that attitude discounts the 400,000 decisions he had to make to make that movie work in the first place. Yeah. People have no idea the pressure of someone who is working on a movie like that. And I've worked on a number of big movies. I've worked on a number of big sequels. Yep. But the pressure there is so intense from all directions that I think it's a real tribute to JJ, his dedication to the fans and his dedication to making something new and fresh that he he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, you played it really safe, but I think maybe that might have been the right decision when you have to reintroduce such a big franchise and bring it back in movie form.
Well, and I mean, safe I don't know that he played it that safe. I think what he did was he kept it simple and didn't like throw in everything, which the prequels kind of did.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's a risk to say we're just going to go back to a simple hero who re-enters this world and reintroduces us, and the things he did with the classic characters I thought were right on and good choices. And so, it feels like sort of a safe, simple film, but at the same time, it's not. It's got to reopen that entire universe for the world,
I feel like Kylo Ren in particular is a very different villain from like Darth Vader, and leaves a lot of potential for like really interesting developments that you can. Oh, hello.
Sorry, I don't think anybody's ever seen her on the internet, but this is Baby Snake.
Baby Snake.
Come in, just say hello, and it's her.
Hi.
Hello.
What's that? You don't like being on camera?
Happy birthday.
Yeah, it's your birthday.
Happy
right?
birthday.
Just lean in and say thank you, and then you can be done.
Thank you.
No, lean in. Can you close my door, please?
Baby Snake. There you go.
So that's the introduction.
Exclusive. Yeah, well, I think like you were saying, as far as having to get things right in the Star Wars universe, I think that also falls on your shoulders as being the male Jedi in the Star Wars games. You really had to kind of nail that character, and you did. And that was kind of the point of my question, is I was wondering how different it is to record for a big game like that's ever evolving and has all these different choices, as opposed to something narrative driven like Metal Gear Solid, where the lines are strictly he's going to say this and then they're going to respond with that.
I'm sorry. What's the question? How was that different? Or
yeah, like how was it different recording for a big game like that as opposed to like a narrative-driven game like Metal Gear?
It's all acting, and fortunately the Star Wars producers are very, very good, and they know what they want. So they're able to sort of guide you, or I'm able to say what's happening here and why.
Do you get to see
a spaceship? Is this a thing? No, I don't get to see anything.
Okay.
And I never know if the person I'm hitting on is a boy or a girl. His sexuality is fairly fluid.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting, and not that it changes my reads much, but the very cool thing about it is it's kind of like creating three different versions of the same character, because you've got your light side guy, you've got your neutral guy, and then your dark side responses, and those are my favorite because those are more. It's got more of a Han Solo sort of like you can go to hell, sort of attitude, and although without the growl, and then so yeah, from that perspective, it's kind of like depending on the style of the response, it's a different path that character's taking.
Okay,
so that's really fun.
Well, thanks for that, Young. You're up.
Yeah. For this next question, you mentioned in your interview with Game Informer that once Kojima had considered casting Kurt Russell for Naked Snake, which I think surprised a lot of people. Nobody knew about that until you said that. So can you tell us a bit about how you found out about this? If did Kurt ever come in? Or did you?
No. Okay. I was just told by somebody on the inside that occurred, and I probably shouldn't even have mentioned that I knew it. I think the only people that knew were that person, Kojima, Kurt Russell, and myself. So I may have been speaking out of school, but I thought people would find it interesting from a Metal Gear history perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
So you're going to finally tell us who Suzette Mignette is?
I can't. I wish I could, because she's so great. And
when does the NDA on that expire?
Never.
That's an NDA. That's an NDA that may never expire. So that's
never. Never. Oh man, that's so terrible. She has so many fans,
and they don't seem like the type of people that would ever let that go. But
we heard from Chris that it's actually not a real NDA. It's just like a professional thing that the people who know who she is are doing for her, which is cool of you guys.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm not bound by it. I can say whatever I want, but out of loyalty to her, I can't. I can't reveal that. I mean, she'd have to do it, and I don't see that happening. I mean, I know she's proud of the role, and she's amazing in it, but she's got other interests that need to be balanced out. So
Understandable.
Sorry.
Can I ask if you at least
so terrible at keeping secrets too. It's Meryl Streep.
She has so many fans.
Meryl Streep.
a lot of people just love that character. We're hoping that someday, we have a feeling who it is, and we hope someday, whenever this particular, if it is a work relationship that's kind of keeping her, from putting her name out there. Hopefully, when she retires, we can talk.
Yeah,
do you at least meet this person once in a while? Maybe you could relay how much Metal Gear fans love her role.
Pass it on.
You really want to just thank her.
I would if I ran into her, but I haven't. I don't think I've run into her since then.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right, sorry to interrupt y'all. Was there any other parts to your question?
No, that was all I had to ask. Go ahead, Ronan.
Ronan, you're up, bud.
All right, so we talked a little bit about your role in Far Lands and VR and stuff like that, but I was kind of curious about what your thoughts are about virtual reality technology as a whole, and perhaps the potential of it for the future in video games or movies or whatever that is. So what are your thoughts on that, David?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think there is great potential for it, and like I say, the experience of stepping into a VR world is pretty amazing. I, for one, don't know how you move through the world if you have little gloves that claw you along, or something. I mean, I
usually it's a controller.
It's a controller that you hold in your hand. And
usually.
Oh, okay.
Most of the time, yeah.
They do have some things where you can actually you strap your waist in and you can walk on a treadmill type thing.
Oh, cool.
I've heard there was full bodysuits going around out there. People who want to get the real immersive experience. I don't know. There's a lot of that going around.
But then how do you keep yourself from running into a wall?
Right.
There's one particular tech called Omni, and it's a multi-directional treadmill. So, and then they strap you, and then when you're running, it just keeps you in place. But the treadmill at the bottom, you can turn around and everything. And
that's
so
awesome.
It's expensive, probably.
No doubt. But to create a full holodeck experience, which is essentially what this is, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And anything that advances the technology of gaming or storytelling, I think is worthwhile. It'll be like anything else. It'll be like the PlayStation. It'll be like arcade games. It'll come in and be what it is, and it'll just develop. Everybody will figure out different ways to use the technology. So. As long as there's a profit to be made, people will find a way to make it.
Yeah. So far, the impressions have been really good.
Absolutely.
There's been reviews coming out, and people have been really impressed with the technology and how well it works.
Yeah.
Good. Cool.
It's just a shame that it's $800.
Yeah.
So we can expect to see a Wolf sequel in VR soon, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're doing a fully 360 interactive experience where you too can get beaten to death by Jason Momoa, and I think a lot of people will go for that.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
That's great.
That's actually where my next question picks up is Wolves. I tweeted you a couple weeks ago and told you that I had seen it, and it finally came out during our last interview. It wasn't available where I lived. It was recently put on our little on-demand service, and I checked it out. It was awesome. I loved it. So I wanted to ask you how it was making something like that with somebody from Game of Thrones, and you got a nice cast in there. The girl was absolutely amazing. I loved her. She was one of my favorite characters.
Okay.
I don't know her name.
Her name is Merritt Patterson. She's on the Royals right now, and great Vancouver actress. And I mean, just a kid, really. I mean, she was 22, I think, and Lucas Till was 21.
Yep.
When we shot it, and the experience was amazing. I mean, I came up as an on-camera actor and in theater and stuff, and then I became a screenwriter. So I spent a lot of time in this office or in the offices of studio executives or whatever, and that's a delight. But I really missed being on set, and so to be on my own set, and most of it was just on location. We didn't do barely any studio work, and to be creating creatures and going to the creature effects house and all that stuff was very, very cool, and it was just so nice to be out with the actors again. And then we did, so for Wolves, a lot of it was on location, shot at night.
Yeah.
So we did 53 straight nights
Oh wow.
of shooting. So I did almost 2 straight months of getting up at 6 o'clock at night, going to work, coming home, and going to bed at 8 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, it was intense, and but it was awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
I really liked it.
Movies like going to war, and
it was all like practical effects too, right?
Yeah, almost.
You could tell. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
something that I miss, and also something that I appreciated about like Force Awakens. Just like I watched like Hobbit, for example, and all the orcs are now sort of CGI, and it's just I don't know, it's different. I don't know, it's
yeah.
I miss the
feel is real, and you know when you got Momoa and he's in the wolf suit, it's
awesome.
like 6'7" at that point, and
wow.
I mean, you stand next to him, he's just enormous, and you feel that, and you feel that, and all of the hair was actual animal hair that was punched in hair by hair.
Oh, wow.
On each mask, on all the bodysuits, on all that stuff. I mean, it's the real deal, and so
I think that's why I kind of liked it more than I thought I was. When you first told us about it, you were like, "Well, it's a werewolf movie," and you were kind of comparing it to some of the movies that were popular around that time, and I was like, "Uh-oh, I don't know how this was going to be," but it had like the perfect amount of like violence, sexiness, and comedy, like all kind of meshed in together, and I was like, This was great. As soon as I got done watching it, I went over and got my family. I was like, "Hey, you guys got to watch Wolves." It was awesome. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was meant. And sorry, I'm going to grab something to eat because I'm starving. It was sort of a situation where we. I got an old slice of pizza.
Dinner with David.
I kind of wanted to make a throwback to Near Dark or Lost Boys or those films that I loved when I was a kid, and to really or American Werewolf in London, where I think the practical effects in that still hold up and feel realer because they're practical, and so that's what we want to go back to.
Well, that's awesome, and we hope you have some more movies like that in store for us here in the future.
So do I.
Yong, you're up.
Yeah. So for my next question, as we all know, you did the screenplay for X-Men 1 and 2, both right there, and both, of course, directed by Bryan Singer. So I've got to ask about what your thoughts are on Days of Future Past, and of course the upcoming Apocalypse, which I'm actually really excited about.
Yeah. Well,
be honest.
Oh yeah, I'll be honest.
I'm kidding.
I'm honest to the point where I get in trouble, so I have to be careful. But no, I love Days of Future Past. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
I love Bryan to death, and I owe him, so much. I mean, I didn't know what to expect with him going back to the X-Men world, and I thought he just took it to a whole nother level. I mean, to a certain extent, I felt like Days of Future Past felt like our first 2 movies, and felt like a return to that world that had sort of been lost with the other directors. Yeah. Although I love Matthew Vaughn as well. I thought First Class was great.
Absolutely.
But Days of Future Past felt like our old movies, but brought to a different level. I mean, the cast, both the young cast and the older cast, are astounding. I thought it felt so much like a great 70s crime thriller at the same time, and all that 70s stuff with Wolverine I thought was awesome, and Jennifer Lawrence, and so no, I thought it was amazing, and I really didn't have anything negative to say about it. I was just blown away. Apocalypse, I haven't really. I've only seen one trailer. I haven't really dug into it too much, but I think Bryan is very re-inspired being back on the X-Men movie.
Good.
So I would expect good things.
Yeah, looks insane. Looks pretty insane.
Definitely does.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Apocalypse looks good as well.
Yeah, and you also, of course, did the screenplay for Watchmen. And so I've got to ask, what are your thoughts on Zack Snyder's latest epic, Batman v Superman? Because it has been receiving a lot of mixed reviews. I think a lot of the audiences, they liked it, but then like the critics have been really harsh on. So what are your personal thoughts on Batman v Superman?
Well, look, I also owe Zach because he made Watchmen after I'd been hacking away at it for 9 years. So I'll always be grateful to him. Fortunately, I haven't seen the movie, so I can be totally honest and say I have no idea.
Gotcha.
You know, it sounds to me, given the reviews, that I'm kind of going to wish it was a little more fun and not quite so bleak.
Sure.
But I haven't seen it, so it's not really fair for me to comment.
No problem.
Sure. Will you go watch it soon?
Oh, absolutely.
At some point?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The big movies I try to see in the theater, but again, I'm fairly busy, so
sure.
I don't get to do it. That's the thing about movies. If you love movies, and you start working in the movies, you don't have time to go to them.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Same with games, honestly.
Exactly.
Lately, I haven't been playing a lot of games because I've been covering them so much. So.
Right.
Exactly. It's a travesty, I tell you. What about one closer to home, Deadpool? Have you seen that?
I have not.
Oh, that was so good.
I wanted to ask you about the X. There's some X-Men in it, and I wanted to ask you about it. So you're gonna have to watch it. And the next time you're on the show, we'll talk about it.
I'm very, very excited about that. I love Ryan Reynolds, and I love the idea of doing Deadpool right, which it sounds like they did. I want to see Colossus, all that stuff. Yeah. So, but again, I'm a terrible guy behind.
No problem. Any other parts for that question, Young?
I'm good.
All right, cool. We're about halfway through here.
Yep.
Oh, actually, we're near the end here. Ronan, you're up.
All right. So I noticed from some of your recent tweets here, David, that you might be you might have a small bit of a Stephen King collection. So I was kind of curious about, what some of your favorite stories are, because I enjoy some of his stories too. I haven't had a chance to dive into too much of his books recently, but what are some that you might recommend?
Well, I'm a massive Stephen King fan. I learned to write from him. I've read everything he's done, pretty much everything he's ever said. And what I do is I buy the hardcovers when they come out. So I have a collection of first edition Stephen King hardcovers that goes back almost to the beginning. Basically to the mid 80s. And the picture I tweeted are just the recent ones that I have in my house here. Mm-hmm. We just cleared out my storage, and I took all of them and set up this shelf, which I'm very proud of. Nice. So, and then a lot of younger followers of mine have been asking me what I would recommend. And so I would start the way I started, which is with the early shorter books, like Salem's Lot is amazing. Oh, yeah. Firestarter, Christine is astounding. Mm-hmm. But my favorite book of his has to be The Stand, which I've read 5 or 6 times, and I'm actually listening to it in my car on audiobook right now.
That's great.
It's literally 47 hours long.
Wow.
But the writing is just, I don't even know how he does it. It just seems like he's just plugged into some larger force that just writes through him, and it's very, very creepy and awesome. But he's got this book Revival that just came out, and it's something he wrote in 8 months, and it's a guy's whole 50-year life all wrapped up in this one book, and it's so real, and I don't know how he does it. It's
8 months, really. 8 months.
8 months. Yeah.
8 months. Well, at the end of each book now, it just says, started here, ended here. Started in January, ended in August, or whatever. Wow. And I'm like, how do you even? I mean, I guess he writes 8 to 10 hours a day, and get a lot done.
Yeah,
I bet.
I mean, because I've recently started to try to get into myself, and of course, I kind of have a history of reading some of the books and seeing some of the movies, like It, for example, which I get a lot of people that talk about how it's all right and stuff like that. And people are scared of the clown Pennywise, obviously, and it's funny because for me, I saw that as a kid, and you would think horror films, maybe not the kind of thing you want to watch as a kid, but I watched that. Clown didn't scare me, not one bit. But suddenly,
you're so corrupt.
But suddenly, Cujo comes out, and it scares the crap out of me, and I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I mean, you go through the books, you'll find something that scares you, because he'll hit everything. And the thing, did you read it?
Yes,
or just see the movie? If you read it, it's every monster you ever imagined. And like, there's all these different sequences. There's a werewolf attack. There's a vampire with razor blades for teeth that are just jammed into his gums. And there's there's the guard that comes to that guy the guard suddenly has a head that's a Doberman Pinscher, and or the mummy from the Boris Karloff movie. Like each sequence, or the drowned children, like there's all story after story after story that make up this creature, and it's everything that ever scared you in your entire life. So that's pretty amazing. The other book I want to recommend is Night Shift, which was
I heard about that.
the book of short stories, and it was the first thing I ever picked up, and there are some stories in there that are just astounding. So
I
awesome. Highly recommend it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much for that.
Sure.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Makes me kind of want to check those out on. Just got a cool little Audible subscription, so maybe we can check that out.
There you go.
See what's on there. I love listening to that
too.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I like reading, but so distracting. If I could have it on my headphones where nothing can bother me, or like David said, in the car or something like that, it's so much easier to do it that way nowadays. But I want to talk quickly about a game that just released on home consoles. We talked a little bit about it in our last interview with you, David. Republic. It's finally out now, officially out, where it was in early access and kind of all of the episodes weren't done. But they're all done now. Everything's out. People have been playing it. It's got highly positive reviews. A lot of people have loved it, which is, it's astounding. I'm not sure if you know the history of it, but it started out as like a little mobile game, and is now, went to the PC, and then now it's on home console. So lots of people are getting to play this game. Can you tell us how it was playing the character that you play, and maybe tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. In fact, I just got my PS4 version.
Well, there you go.
Nice.
Came to me, and I've been involved in it since the beginning, and I play a character named Zager. So it's a sort of an Orwellian 1984 type world, and Zager is a revolutionary who kind of lives in the walls, or at least used to live in the walls. You start the game and he's theoretically dead, but you find these tapes that he's left behind, and he's sort of like a madman DJ of the apocalypse, basically. I mean, we recorded, the recording sessions on that were insane. So they would actually give me whiskey to drink, because he's fairly drunk in a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I was a little drunk recording it. And they were like, don't be afraid to go off mic, or I would like lean my face against the mic and sort of scratch it with my beard, and
because a lot of them are recordings, right?
Well, yeah, and I'm recording on an 80s era tape recorder, so you hear me click the thing.
Oh, wow.
So they use both that audio and the mic audio. So I go off mic, or I had to throw a book across the room, and I just took an actual book and hooked it across the room. There was another, there's a scene where I've got one of the soldiers, the bad guy soldiers, and I've kidnapped him. And this was this poor guy, who I had to sort of manhandle for the scene. And I was like, look, I'm going to grab you. I'm going to throw you around a little bit. I hope that's all right. And he was like, yeah. Turned out the guy was a Marine, so he was,
great.
He was fairly solid, but like he was on mic here, and I'm on a mic here, and I just went over to his mic and grabbed him by the throat and wrestled him around, and like wow, bah, bah, and then brought him up to my mic, and I'm like, tell them whatever it is I'm supposed to tell. And so
that's cool.
People would come in. It's a soundproof booth, basically, but people would come in from other booths to see what was going on, because it was so insane, the Zager recording process. Yeah. So I'm very proud of that. I'm glad people are enjoying the game and getting a hold of it.
It's almost like theater behind the scenes.
We actually had one of our reviewers who actually did an interview with you a couple weeks ago, Mike Taylor. He is a reviewer for the company I work for. He actually just reviewed the game, and he said he loved it, and played all the episodes back to back and whatnot. So that's great. I love games that kind of start as smaller projects and then get bigger. So
yeah. No, I can't wait to play it myself. I just got my copy.
There you go.
Awesome.
It's not as complicated as maybe like some of the Metal Gear games or things like that. So
Right.
it should be easy for you to pick up.
What is as complicated as a Metal Gear game?
The Republic, it's not like the controls. A lot of
I'm saying I don't know what could possibly be as
Yeah.
complicated.
Oh.
as
Steel Battalion. That's that one's
Steel Battalion.
Yeah, that one's got a controller with like 250 buttons.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's pretty intense.
That's the only one.
Right.
All right, we're getting towards the end of the interview here, though. So, Yong, you've got the next question, bud.
Yeah. So you might be aware of this, but recently, some Metal Gear fans from Spain, they got together and decided to work on a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake called Shadow Moses. So you have heard about this, and it's been receiving a lot of fuss. And it almost seemed like it was going to go through with because Konami at one point they retweeted their Twitter handle, almost like they're showing support, like, "Hey guys, check this out." And then, of course, a few weeks later, it was slashed. It was canceled, disappointingly, but unsurprisingly. So my question to you is: were you ever? Well, first of all, what was your reaction to the project, and then were you ever approached for it?
Yeah. Well, Chris Zimmerman and I were in the booth, I think, doing Farlands, and she showed me some of what they were doing. I think it's on the Unreal Engine. Is that what it was?
Engine 4. Yeah.
So, a full immersive 3D reimagining of Shadow Moses, and we thought that was really cool. And I spoke to them. I think I got in touch with them. Like they were sort of mentioning me obliquely, and they followed me on Twitter. So I just sent them a DM and said, "Hey, what are you up to?" And so on and so forth. And they were like, "Well, we were afraid to contact you, and we'd love to have you do this, but we're not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing vis-a-vis Konami."
Right.
And I was like, I don't know. I agree. It could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing.
Right.
Sure.
I'm always. This isn't the first time this has happened. There was another.
Yeah.
Right.
The
we
Metal
talked
Gear
about
1
that.
remake. Yeah.
Yeah, the Metal Gear 1 remake, and they wanted to do
Yeah.
that. What happened there, and I think what probably happened on this one, is that somebody speaks to an executive at Konami US and doesn't speak to Konami Japan, and the two sides don't communicate as well as you would think they do.
Right.
So, some low-level executive says, "Yeah, it's fine," and then some higher executive says, "What are you, nuts? We're not doing that." So I kind of told them, I said, "Look, anytime it's Snake, I'd be, especially if it's a beautiful reinterpretation like that, I'd be happy to do it."
Right.
But I was kind of like, if I do it, or if I say I'm doing it, it'll be like the Eye of Sauron. They'll
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
they'll suddenly, the Konami will look, the world will look, Kojima will look, everybody will be focused on it, and it might cause more trouble than it's worth. So we both sides sort of agreed. They have a guy who does a David Hayter impression, and so he was going to do it. And I said, I think that might be better, so this doesn't feel so much like a sanctioned
Right.
fan remake. But then, of course, they got shot down anyways, which is a shame. So nice group of people, and their work was amazing, and they're up to other things. And I actually spoke to them not too long ago, and so there might be other things we can do together. But it's the whole Metal Gear thing is fraught with politics and business.
Of
So
course.
Unfortunately,
it's just what it is.
People here trying to enjoy things? No.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for the insight. I was definitely looking forward to it, and I did some coverage on it, and maybe to its detriment, maybe I shouldn't have brought any attention to it. I don't know.
No. I mean, they're gonna try to put it out at some point, and they're always going to draw that attention regardless. I just, I felt if I did it, it would create. They'd be hit by lightning.
Right.
Right.
Gotcha.
IPs and stuff are always tough, especially when you have a game and you don't know if it's going to be a paid product or a free thing, or that I'm sure that weighs into the company's decisions. But Ronan.
Well, and the other
go
other thing is fans get so inspired and they just want to go back to that world so much that it sort of overshadows the realities of things. And as a screenwriter, I get sent people are like, here's I wrote an X-Men script, or I wrote a Captain America script, or whatever, and I'm like, well, great, but nobody's going to do anything but kill this. You don't own it, so you can't just say, hey, make my Falcon fan script and it's going to become something. It's just not.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always tough. There has been some exceptions over the years, but it seems like Metal Gear never gets that exception.
Yeah.
There's been a few Star Trek things and whatnot, but again, Paramount is always watching you. They're always keeping an eye on if you're crossing.
It's a valued IP that they have to protect, and that's that's understandable.
Yeah. All right, Ronan. You're up, buddy.
Actually, this is to add on to Jan's question. In fact, I'm curious about just how often you get asked about, jumping on fan projects like this, besides the ones that have come to the surface outside of the Metal Gear remake, for example, and of course the Shadow Moses remake. So just how often does this happen where these projects kind of come to light and perhaps they contact you to reprise your role as Snake?
Well, I think it's happened to me 3 times. So the first group, and then the Shadow Moses people, they didn't ask, but we discussed it.
Right.
And then this other thing that I just did where I tweeted out that I was doing a Snake script. It was actually this little thing, and they got permission from Konami. So you'll actually see that fairly soon. But it's nothing.
That was Campbell,
fun
right?
or interesting. Yeah, it's me and Campbell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is that? Oh, that's what.
That explains it.
Okay, a lot. Yeah,
We were trying to get Paul here today. We were going to do an interview with you and Paul together, but he's really busy today. Couldn't make it.
Yeah, he was just in New Zealand, I think, wasn't he, or something?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's a busy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he travels the world and screams out, "Snake!"
Yes, he does, and it's awesome.
So.
There we go.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
All right, my last question for you, David. You do a lot of, different things, like you were telling us earlier. You're a screenwriter, you've directed, you've been in games. Have you ever thought about doing your own video game?
Yes. I have. I have discussed it. There's been a few things that they come to me as a writer to see if I wanted to write a video game, but they weren't able to pay enough to make it worth the time. I was supposed to write the Spider-Man 3 movie adaptation video game, and but the money was a fraction of what I would make.
They don't have money for those games.
yeah. Apparently they didn't. But I have talked to some producers about possibly creating my own game and coming in, creating a world. I'm also
you would be good at that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got like you say, I've got a foot in both worlds, and so I'm talking to some people about adapting a title for television. Or actually, I just had a meeting on a movie series that they were saying, oh, this could be a game series or whatever. So something that I'm creating that is its own world. We are now discussing the possibility of me coming in and helping to create the video game versions of those, but those discussions are not far enough along to say anything
but
about.
You do have interest in doing something like that?
Absolutely. I mean, the storytelling opportunities in games is now equal to or greater than it is in movies or television. And so, we're at a place where I could really do something big and immersive and with my own voice. So, I would love to do that. And I would love to combine the video game side of my fan base to the to the much smaller writing side.
Well, like I said, I think that would be a good step for you. I see, like I said, where you have these movies and you're in these games, and it seems like a lot of times the stuff that I like the most from you is when you have the most creative freedom, like with Wolves or with Metal Gear. You were in that character so long, you kind of, defined it. When you're able to do kind of what you want to do, that's when the best stuff comes out. And I just thought I would ask that if you had ideas or interest in creating games, they could possibly be pretty good. And you see, with like Bloodstained, Kickstarter, things like that can really help get projects like that right off the ground.
Yeah.
So
It's true. It's true. Although I would rather take the money from a studio than
Of
from
course.
the fans. And luckily I'm in a position where
I
my
love that response.
job. It's nice that the fans want to put in money,
That's what I
but they were like, the fans were like, "Can we pay you to re-record
Yeah.
the Ground Zeroes
voices.
lines or
Right,
whatever?"
right.
And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. They can either hire me to do it or don't. But the nice thing about my screenwriting career is it allows me to get in the room with all the top financiers and producers and studios, and so so hopefully we'll do it, but we'll do it right and
Yeah.
bring it
Did you
up.
say what the movies were that you were asked to adapt, or is that still?
No, there's a brand new. So I've come up with a movie, and I was at CAA pitching an actor's representative, so a star that would attach himself to the movie, and we would create a world. And they literally, this meeting was like 2 days ago, and the agent at CAA was saying, this could be video games, this could be that, this could be that.
Yeah,
but
was
it's
a leak.
very early days. So no, I can't say what it is
Okay,
yet.
and this is like a David Hayter creation. Very cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, I'm partnered with another writer,
yeah.
so it will be a creation between me and him.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, basically, it's a world that he and I will create and hopefully turn into a movie franchise and ideally games and all that stuff.
That
We
sounds
are
awesome.
No hints regarding
Yeah.
like genres, fantasy, sci-fi. No, nothing.
It's an ideal dark hero production. It's somewhere in the fantasy horror sci-fi genre.
Sweet.
That sounds cool.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
All right,
Thank you.
y'all.
Sorry, I can't say more, but
that's
it's
fine.
That's all right. It's cool.
It's a good end. Yeah.
That was my last question. So, Young, it's on you, buddy.
Yeah. So this could be way off, but I was looking through IMDb, just in case I might have missed something. But we all know, it's not always reliable. But I noticed that listed under your name in the writer section is this little movie called Black Widow, and it says that you are writing for it, and we all know how much you love Black Widow, and I was thinking to myself, this would be a match made in heaven, but I don't know if this is real. So I've got to ask, is this alleged Black Widow movie happening? Are you a part of it? Is it true or false? Can you say anything?
Yeah. No. That was a movie I wrote 10 years ago. So Marvel and I were putting together an independent Black Widow movie. I think we were at Lionsgate, and it was before Marvel Studios and all of that. And we, and I was attached to write and direct it, and so it was a little standalone Marvel movie, probably in the $30 million range. And so I was working on it, and everybody was very excited. But there were questions at the time as to whether or not a female action hero could carry a movie, which I thought was silly then. I think is silly now.
Yeah.
And while we were in prep on it, the movies Aeon Flux and Blood Rain and Ultraviolet all came out at the exact same time. Yeah. And all of them failed. And then the movie was dead. So, so there is a fully developed David Hayter Black Widow script out there.
Okay.
I have not. I mean, I exchanged emails with Kevin Feige a few months ago, but there is no talk of my version coming back together. I don't even know what their plans are for an individual Black Widow movie. Really,
right. Yeah.
If it comes out, I would be one of the writers. I would be the first writer, so I'd be in contention for credit, possibly, even if I didn't do anything else. But if we could develop it further and sort of bring my version to light, that would be great. But I know. But what happened was I started working on Iron Man, and then Kevin told me, basically what we're going to do is we're going to create our own studio. So we're going to focus for the next decade on the big titles. Try to establish Marvel Studios, and if that works, we'll go back to the standalone smaller movies. So that's why they stopped doing movies like The Punisher or Blade or whatever.
Right.
So that's the story of the Black Widow thing.
There you go.
Maybe it'll come back. Maybe it'll come back in another version from mine, or what? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Black Widow's been developed enough at this point through the other movies that you can kind of make a movie about her and it'll be really successful. Because I think she's one of the more enigmatic characters in the Marvel universe of movies. We just
and it's essentially at its heart what I had done was a spy movie. That's sort of Russia and the United States and her upbringing and how that all comes together, and so it's got a unique perspective on it, but it's still a superhero thing, and I always loved Black Widow from like the Frank Miller Daredevils and stuff like that. So I hope it comes together.
Awesome. And I like that she's not like super powered, and so it's sort of more like she's like more human. Like I know they're all technically like humans.
It's a little more grounded, I guess, in some aspects.
But it's like more, like Batman. A lot of people.
It is. Although I will say, and this is probably a spoiler I shouldn't put out there, but I did have her experimented on, and what they did was they sort of tightened up the torque on her ligaments to give her like insect-like reflexes.
Oh, okay.
That would be good for her, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's still somewhat organic.
Questionable,
it's not but it gives her a little more heightened. It sort of explains why she can snap kick a 270-pound guy in the face and really do him some damage.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Really
cool.
Well, come on, Marvel. Let's bring it to life. Come on.
Ronan?
All right, and this is actually my last question as well. So, as a writer for you personally, or a screenwriter as well, what problems or challenges are you faced with when it comes to either writing a script or writing a movie, things like that? Like, how do you fight against issues that happen to a lot of writers, like writer's block and other things that prevent them from getting stories finished and things like that? But for you personally, how do you combat those issues?
Well, there's a great quote from Somerset Maugham, and he said, "I only write when I'm inspired. Fortunately, I'm inspired every morning at 9 o'clock. I don't, I typically tell people I don't have time for writer's block. I have, I write 2 or 3 major projects per year. So I'm in my office every day, every morning, writing for a number of hours. And when that happens, you start to learn that, I mean, basically what you do, if you're stuck and you don't know what you're going to write next, what I do is I just start writing out freehand. Okay, what are we dealing with here? I've got a scene where such and such is going to happen, and she's going to be facing this, and she's got her insect reflexes, and how's she going to get out of this? And I don't know. And I write all my problems, and suddenly it just comes clear. Suddenly the answer just comes out, and I go, great, okay, that's great, and then I run with that. But let me also say it's very easy for me to say that because I get paid to write. I don't have to worry about another job. I don't have to worry about, supplementing my writing work with other work. So it's very easy for me to say, hey, just be disciplined and go out and spend 3 hours of your day writing.
Right.
It's not so easy if you have to, work at Hamburger Hamlet or something for 8 hours, and then motivate yourself to write after.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not easy.
A good tip, though.
Yeah, I mean, so the bottom line is, get out of your own way. Just write down your problems and keep complaining about it until a solution comes to you. And I think that is a universal solution. I think that can work for anybody.
Yeah.
Get into the habit of writing as much as possible. If you can do an hour a day, then that's helpful. If you do 2 hours a day, that's better. And those the ways that you'll do it. I'll also say that the typical way that people get started is that they write one script and it takes them like a year and a half, 2 years to finish it, and they're like, there, it's done. And it's like, no, that's the first step. And like it takes me it takes me between 5 and 8 full drafts before I feel like, okay, now we're getting
wow.
now we've got it, you know,
Right.
because a script is like writing a script is like making a samurai sword. So you take the sword and you fold over the metal once. And then you take it and you fold it over again. Then you fold it over 1,000 times, and then it's got this strength and the edge to it that is unbreakable.
Right.
Same thing with a script. You write it the first time, that's one flat sheet of metal. Then you've got to fold it in on itself, and you've got to, you know, take everything that happens in your third act and set it up in your first act.
Right.
You know, so this is how you create something. So typically, a beginning writer will write one script and it's terrible, and they feel like I could never do that again.
Right.
When really what you need to do if you want to work is write first script, terrible. Second script, terrible. Third script, not bad. You know, you're starting to figure it out, and some producer comes to you and says, I like this. You know, I'd like to make this. Do you have any other scripts? And you say, I've got 2 other terrible scripts that I can go back and rewrite, you know? Until you get to that point, you typically aren't going to work.
Right,
You've got to be able to put in that much discipline. And if you're not ready to do that, then don't go down that road, because it's
of course
it's more pain than benefit.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense.
Those were some amazing tips, man.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
See you all on the big screen.
Yeah, one day. Young, are you? Was that it? I saw you had another question. It looked like it disappeared.
Yeah, it was already answered. It was about the Twitter thing that a lot of people.
Perfect.
You know, like, what is that? Yeah.
Well, we're at the end here, David. You know how this round works. We got a couple community questions, fast, short, one sentence, couple sentence answer. Young's gonna fire them off. Ronan, if you want to check the chat, we got like 300 something people here watching. If anybody in the chat's got a question for David, now's the time to ask us, and we're running out of time. Young, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is Spartan092, and he asks, have you ever considered or have you written a short story or any kind of story about like Solid Snake or Big Boss, anything Metal Gear related, any pet projects in particular, any fan fiction per se that you've written?
I have not written any fan fiction, but I actually just cleared out my storage space and found, I think, 10 short stories that I wrote in my early 20s, which were kind of sci-fi horror things. I mean, really, it's my attempt to copy Stephen King, you know, because I was early in my writing development. But no, I never wrote any Metal Gear short stories. Kojima and I have very different writing styles, and so I'm not entirely sure how I would enter that world. Although I did come up with a fairly detailed pitch for the Metal Gear movie, which unfortunately did not come together with Sony. But so I did do that, but that was more of an adaptation, a screenplay adaptation of what was already there.
Gotcha. The fourth snake asks. If you were to be asked to be involved in a Metal Gear Solid movie, which role would you like to go for? And by role, I mean like, would you like to be the writer, the director, the actor in it? What would be your preference?
Well, look, if it was a dream world and I controlled everything with my mind, I would certainly play the lead role. But that would be a dream world, and I would probably be in a coma if that opportunity arose. So
9-year coma.
Well, because it'd be a big, expensive movie, so you're going to want a Hugh Jackman or somebody, you know, who's like a major movie star to anchor it. So, but I would really love to be a writer, possibly producer on it, because I know the world so well, and because I have a lot of experience translating fan-driven material for the studios. I think I have a good sense of what needs to be protected, what needs to be celebrated, what needs to be simplified, pared back, without losing that essential flavor of the world. So ideally, I would love to do on the Metal Gear movies the same as I did on the X-Men movies, which is basically keep them true, and Watchmen, you know, keep them true to the original material and make them work for the big screen.
I got a caveat question on that. Would it be a Solid Snake movie or a Big Boss movie?
Ooh.
Well, I mean, that's not up to me at the moment.
Well, if
when I pitched it, it was a
choice.
Solid Snake movie.
Okay.
I'm saying if you had your choice
Yeah,
of making it, would it be Big Boss's story or would it be Solid Snake's?
Well, like I say, I like to bring movie fans, people that aren't familiar with the material, in the same way that the game fans were brought in. So
Right.
Okay.
the way I originally pitched it was Shadow Moses Island,
Okay.
and you know, the Genome Soldiers and all that stuff, because I think there's a very cool epic dynamic there where you introduce Solid Snake. He's this guy, he's a legendary soldier, everybody thinks he's awesome, and along the way he finds out not only does he have this clone brother, but he's a clone himself. These are 17-year-old spoilers, so I apologize.
Yeah, you're good.
So I think the reveal is cooler if you find out that he's a copy of a legendary soldier at the end of the film, and then you can branch, then you can go into the past, and then you can,
I like that.
Who Big Boss is, and I think, you know, the way Kojima set it up was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, I thought that's what made it compelling. Like when people found out, oh, Metal Gear Solid 3, you play as Big Boss. You play as the guy from whom Solid Snake was cloned from, and that already is like a really great pitch. So I can kind of see what you mean there.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, and this is one thing that I get a lot of flack from fans or idiots, like what, I don't know what happened.
We're both.
Well, some are one more than the other. But the dumber ones seem to say, they're like, you know, well, shouldn't Big Boss be played by a different person? I'm assuming that's how they sound. And I'm like, well, he's a clone, so wouldn't his vocal cords be exactly the same? I mean, you know, it's essentially the exact same person. It's the same body, it's the same face, it's the same vocal cords or whatever. So I think for the sake of a movie series, it's very cool to have this guy be in the first movie, and say it's Hugh Jackman. So to have Hugh be in the first movie and then find out he's a clone of this soldier, and then go and play himself, the original soldier, because physically they're the same, but mentally they have different experiences. So I think it's a very cool opportunity for an actor, primarily because it was a cool opportunity for me as an actor. You know.
Okay.
Cool.
In the meantime, most people shut up.
Yeah. All right, go ahead and continue, Young. I think you got one or two more on there.
Yeah. Nobody from YouTube asks, is there any role that you haven't played as a voice actor that you'd like to try? If you had your way?
I would like to be Batman. So
Batman.
I'm a big Batman fan, and I think that that would be cool. And then I mean, I'd love to play. I'd also love to play Wolverine, because I feel like I put a lot of my personality into the X-Men movies and into Wolverine, and so it'd be kind of cool to take that on as well.
Cool. I guess I can see you playing Wolverine, actually, when I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, with the
that'd
be interesting.
Hopefully go produce a game where that's a possibility.
Infamous fan 95 asks, when you were writing for X-Men and X-Men 2, were you ever influenced by the work that you did in the Metal Gear series? In some way.
Was I? Yeah, I mean, you know, every experience shapes you, and recording those games is an intense, immersive process. So, yeah, I think primarily I learned a lot about the military and you know, the realities of global warfare. I mean, the games are so well researched that I think that certainly has an impact. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are influences that carried over, but I'm sure it's all subconscious, and I couldn't really bring it to mind offhand.
On the topic of X-Men, when you were approached by Marvel to do the Winter Soldier for did you not say, "Hey, I want to be Wolverine"? Is that not how it works?
No, I figured there was already a Wolverine. If I was doing Marvel,
like
universe,
fire that guy and let me play Wolverine.
Well, I wouldn't. I don't.
I'm kidding, Dave. I'm kidding.
No, but I mean, you know, sometimes there's the temptation to push people around or whatever. But I never wanted to like an actual working actor to lose their
Right.
job because of me. I mean, that's low.
Right.
So, but no, I didn't do that. I figured Wolverine.
They
was
didn't
already,
give you a choice though. They were like, "This
plus
is
I
what."
would probably know the guy who played Wolverine, and then he'd be yelling at me in his gravelly
Right.
voice. I'll kill you, bub. So there was that, but I said this in the other podcast or some other podcast that I actually recorded 2 different characters for that game, and I'm not sure what happened to the other one. I'm not going to say who it was, but it was a very cool character.
You can tell us. I think that game's shut down now, isn't it?
Is it?
Let me see.
If it's shut down, I'll tell you what I recorded.
It's called Marvel Heroes, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Marvel Heroes. I think that's still going.
I'll tell you right now.
The power of the internet.
Yeah, at your fingertips.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like it's still going.
Yeah, I thought so.
All right, so they might still release my other characters.
Okay.
I shouldn't really say, but yeah. So I did 2 of them that day, and
Okay.
it was pretty cool.
Well, we'll get in touch with them and see.
Yeah, say where the hell is Hayter's other character?
I talked to the game developer for this particular game frequently, so I will ask. Young, go ahead and continue. I think you got a couple more there.
Guys called Thraka.
Just try.
I'm sorry, dude.
It's all right. It happens.
Did you approach your portrayal of Big Boss and Solid Snake any differently, or did you view them as extensions of the same character?
No. I approached them differently. Well, not only that, but I tried to approach each step in their lives differently. So, so Solid Snake starts off as sort of a crusty veteran. I mean, he's already sort of retired, semi-retired, and he's a musher. I'm a musher, and he's a little beat down. So the first time I played Big Boss in Snake Eater, I was like, here's a guy who is young. He's at the beginning of his career. He's still full of beans. He still believes things. He's still, he's not quite as, he's a little more gung ho, and he's ready to take on the world. And then you run flat into the boss and all these betrayals and stuff, and he starts to, it gives you a better dynamic for the character and sort of separates him from Solid. And then when we did Peace Walker, that's Big Boss on the other side of his career. Now he's older, and he's been through a lot more disappointments. He's a lot more he's dealing with the world as it is rather than the world as he wants it to be. And so and he's really pulling away from the military itself. He's creating his own, Militaire Sans Frontières.
Yeah.
So in that one, I wanted him to not be quite as beaten down or as sort of melancholy as Solid Snake, but to be more cynical, more tired, more disgusted with the whole system. So so each iteration of the character, I mean, I try to do it differently. If it all sounds the same, that's my failure. I
don't think so.
Nah.
Yeah. I guess he just wondered about your approach to how you tackled these different phases, and that's a great answer.
Yeah. Well, I just look at the story. I look at his whatever age he's at and whatever experiences the individual clone or non-clone has gone through, and try to build it from there.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Now, something that a lot of people are wondering is if you know the nature of the character of MGS5 of Venom Snake.
No, not really. I mean, I haven't played the game. I mean, I know that people are always like, "Oh, you should see what they did." I don't know what they did.
Well, it turns out at the end of the game, you're not actually playing as Big Boss. You're playing as Venom Snake, who is a character from Ground Zeroes, and he took basically sort of like took a bullet for Big Boss, and they both went into a coma. And then they make you, and then you get to make your own character at the beginning of the game, and that's the character you play as. But then that character is disguised as Big. He's made into a body double
Yeah, plastic surgery.
And so you are sort of, and the whole purpose of that was Kojima wanted you, the player, to become Big Boss, and then Big Boss is actually a separate character who goes off and to do his own thing. But who you're playing as in the game is the separate entity called Venom Snake, but he's a Big Boss double. And so a lot of people are saying that maybe that's some part of to do with the recasting, that maybe it's because it was like sort of a separate character. It wasn't really the real Big Boss. It was a phantom Big Boss, as they call it in the game, while the real Big Boss went off to do his own thing. And that's something that a lot of people are wondering if you knew about, and I don't know if it gives you any relief whatsoever, but it's something that a lot of people wanted to relay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then I appreciate that, and I did, I had heard versions of that before. Look, I think that it's sort of the other way around. I think that the producers of the game were trying to justify the change to a certain extent, but it's still the same. It's the same Japanese voice actor playing Snake as it always has.
That's true. That is true.
So I think it's more of a story patch than it is like, oh, this explains why you weren't there, whatever. The reasons that I wasn't there were personal and production related and whatever is going on in Kojima's mind. So yeah, I had heard that, and that's fine. I mean, that's good, but I don't, but that separates me from the game even more. It's like it's not my character, and it's not my game. I mean, really, the way I look at it, and really, look, the reason I brought up my unvarnished feelings about Kojima and about the whole thing was because I want voice actors to be able to stand up for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
I can stand up for myself.
The whole focus of our show.
Yeah. I mean, I can stand up for myself in ways that actors can't because I don't need the work. I've got lots of money. I have this other amazing career. I don't need to somebody wrote me this letter and I got really mad at him saying, if you keep doing this, you're never going to work as an actor again. And I'm like, A, that's not true. B, shut up. And C, I'd be okay if I never worked again. I mean, I wouldn't want that,
right?
But it's just not going that. I got more acting work now than I know what to do with. So basically, that's why I said what I said. I wanted everybody to understand what the situation was, so that when other voice actors are in that position and they're being threatened with being fired for whatever reason, because they're asking for more money or because they want more publicity, whatever the reasons are, that they know how it can play out, where they can be brave, and where they should be prudent. So, but beyond that, I'm very happy with my experience on Metal Gear. I'm thrilled with the way we ended my stories. It was an amazing run. So all the way around, I'm really very zen about it. I just felt it was important for the voice acting community to sort of give an indication of how these companies work, what can happen when you're a well-known voice and they want to get rid of you, and how you can combat that, or how you can sort of play the whole thing so that it doesn't ruin your life, basically. If that makes sense.
Thank you for that very honest answer. And I think a lot of people are behind you, and I think for me, it's just the way you were let go is what really bothers me. Like I get that there are certain changes in status quo.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was kind of shitty, and it was kind of disrespectful, and I feel like I did a lot for the games, but
definitely.
But again, it's not it's not personal. It's business. So for all the people that are like, oh, he's upset or he's unemployed or whatever, none of that is true.
Jeez.
There you go. Yeah, thank you for that clarification, and thank you for the honest answer. And I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying, and I like that you're sort of coming in there and raising, like, I guess, awareness to some degree to what can happen, and so very cool. Next question comes from Cool Smack from YouTube. What part of the writing process do you find most satisfying?
Oh, I like the residual checks. So you'll be sitting around 10 years after you wrote a movie, and you'll be like, oh, I want to get such and such car or whatever, and then you'll open up a check for like 19 grand, and you'll be like, oh, that's great. So that's really fun.
Sitting around collecting checks sounds great.
I like big checks, and I cannot lie. You other writers might deny. But no,
poetry time.
What do I like about it? Look, I love writing. It's very zen to me. Like I say, you just get into the zone, and what's amazing is things will come up, and things will come off of your fingertips that you just didn't even know were in you, or there's like a certain turn of phrase that just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, where did that come from? And it's very, very, very cool. And when that happens, when the writing surprises the author, it's going to surprise your audience.
Right.
And so the writing process itself, I love, and then particularly in the movies, when you get to hand off a scene and then you have some amazing actor like Ian McKellen read your lines, it's mind blowing, because you're like, because you feel like what you wrote in comparison is just so two-dimensional or whatever, and then
there's
he
a whole
comes
layer
in,
to it.
yeah, he's like, don't worry about them, Charles, they no longer matter, like this, and you're like,
yeah, I can totally. That's something that a lot of writers have expressed. Like when they finally have like a really talented actor just bringing that to life. Just what a satisfying part of that process.
It's really cool. And then that's really sort of helped me as an actor be able to sort of take lines where I feel like, oh, there's not much there. I'm like, well, it's your job to make it interesting. It's your job to find something in it that just sounds compelling and cool, or like you're thinking about actual things. So so that's that alchemy between the writers and the actors, I think, is really magical.
Awesome.
Yeah, very cool. What do we have here? We have this question's already been answered. Have you ever thought about developing games? Yes. Red Veil. What movies have you seen recently that you liked?
Well, like I say, I don't get out to the theater too often, but I get all the Academy screeners sent to me, and so I saw a lot of the Academy movies. So, like, I really like The Big Short, and I really like Spotlight.
Yes.
Mad Max was my favorite movie of the whole year. That's just
awesome.
an astounding piece. And I loved Ex Machina. Thought that was really cool. Such a beautifully done, small, contained movie. So yeah, there's a few out there that I've really liked recently.
You watched The Revenant?
I did.
Yeah. What'd you think of The Revenant?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I thought, look, it's. I didn't bring it up on purpose. I think it's spectacularly shot. The beauty and the action and the technique of that film are astounding.
Yeah.
I felt like it was 90 minutes worth of story jammed into 3 hours. It was so over the top harsh that by the end I was just laughing. I was like, you can't kill him. He's the Revenant, and I started talking about him like he was Batman or something. He's eating the bison and he's freezing and he's lighting his neck on fire. I was like, okay, this is a little. I felt it was presented as a bigger movie than the story necessarily warranted. But the actors were amazing. The filmmaking is undeniably brilliant. I just, I really respected when Cuarón made Gravity. The fact that was such an epic movie, but it was only 90 minutes long, I really respected that, because I was like, that's how much story you had.
Right.
If you drag that out to 2 hours, it'd be like, oh, we're still doing it. She's still flipping around and grabbing things. And that's kind of how I felt about The Revenant. I felt if you're going to do it, do do an epic but contained Western that but what you know, what do I know? The guy's a genius. So you know,
I thought The Revenant was very showcasey. I feel like it was really showing off, you know, rather than kind of.
It was a little self-indulgent.
But it was
which is just so astounding. But it feels like all of that over-the-top work went into the film, and that it was cut as tight as they could possibly cut it. There was no, we really kicked our own asses to get all these sequences, so we're going to show you every single thing. And,
right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah, but definitely beautiful.
Definitely beautiful and beautifully acted, and the effects are amazing. The stunt work is amazing.
Leo finally got his Oscar. So long, meme.
When were things going to finally go right for that kid?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I
nice
thought he should have got one for Aviator, man. That was my favorite movie.
Yeah.
Just rewatched it on Netflix. It's really awesome.
such a good
fantastic movie.
That one and the one where he's where he writes all the fraudulent checks. I always forget what it's called.
Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can. Those were both great. I love both of those movies.
Yeah, no, I love him. He's awesome. I actually used to hang out with him a little bit back in the Hollywood club days. Yeah.
Leo?
Oh, wow.
What?
They used to
he won't remember if you
take people's lunch money.
But I well, no, he'd take your, if there was some hot girl at the club.
Didn't he like take out 20 girls at once at one point? Like I saw it in the news a couple years ago. He's Leo.
I wasn't there for that, but we used to hang out and Smokey McGuire there and the whole crew and he was always super sweet guy. I knew his I was close with one of his ex-girlfriends, and so I talked to him a few times, and just a lovely guy.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
I'd love to meet him one day.
It's cool.
Yeah. Last question from New to Retro Reviews. He asks, what's the David Hayter dream? What do you want to achieve and accomplish most in life? That's deep. I like that.
Besides all the great movies and video games that you've done, besides that.
Yeah, besides all the
well, it's it's so funny. So I've been digging out my storage thing and finding all these old papers and stuff, and I found a book full of angsty poems from when I was 28, and I had produced my first film, but I hadn't done Metal Gear or X-Men yet, and I was broke, and I was like, what is the point? And I'm going to die, broken alone, and everything's horrible. And my girlfriend was messing with me, and I just, it was just such a painful experience to read these things. And all I wanted to do was tell him, just hang, like 16 months and and everything's going to change. Everything's going to be great. It's all going to be amazing. So I've been reflecting on how incredible this life is and how incredibly lucky I've been. And I've gotten to do, there isn't a dream that I had that I haven't been able to do. I recently got to direct a movie, and so basically I'd just like to be able to continue to do that, to play great parts, to do more directing, to keep living this, circusy creative life, and that's my dream. But really, if they were to take me out now, I'd be like, no, it's pretty good. That all went fine.
Good run.
You're living the dream. You're living the David Hayter dream.
I've got a nice house, and I got a Tesla sedan, and I just bought an Xbox.
Right.
See, I don't know what else.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
If people really knew how good my life was, they'd kill me and eat me immediately.
No, but you deserve it. You do great work. So,
absolutely.
Well, thank you. But the fact is, we all deserve it, and I feel badly for people that don't, particularly talented people that don't get the kind of breaks that I did. Luck is a big factor, and so I just try to remain grateful and try to keep doing it, and that's my dream.
That's what I tell everybody when they ask us about the Codec. Is how did we start, growing this show? It's, growing. And I was like, we got lucky. We tweeted David Hayter, and he was like,
said, yeah,
basically,
yeah.
But yeah. So I got lucky. I started answering the phones for Bryan Singer, and and I ended up writing the movie, and like
that was one of my favorite stories that you told us, is how you accidentally kind of wrote that. I love that.
So my life, my life literally changed in early 2000, like that.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so I try to pay that forward, and if nice fellows like yourself
Thanks.
can benefit, then that's great. I feel very good about that.
We
Awesome.
appreciate it.
We really enjoyed having you on the show. As always, we like to do a couple of voice lines before we let you go. We've got a couple lines set up for you. Yong's got them written out. I think they're all Snake except for one. The last one is it's mine that I put in there, and it's your male
The
Jedi.
Jedi.
Yeah, male
All right.
male Jedi. So Yong, if you'll send those over to him on Skype.
These are pretty short. I could just sort of relay them to, because
Okay.
I don't want to like reveal the user. If I pull the message thing out, it'll like shift all the cameras.
I can do it. I can do it.
Yeah. Okay. Go for it. Yeah. They're
Well, because the one that I have, it's a couple lines. Well, not a couple lines, but it's a sentence.
Okay.
The other ones aren't so much. Okay.
Yeah, I undeniably do miss the David Hayter Snake voice. I haven't heard it in so long.
Well, it's coming right up.
Let me just space them out for you here. Okay. There they are.
This is Snake. Colonel, I have infiltrated the Codec. Kept you waiting, huh? I'm no hero. Never was.
Oh, that's Old Snake.
Yeah.
I'm no hero. Never was. Never will be.
And this is the Ego Raptor.
Oh my god, hotness, I want to bang you! Metal Gear. Iron Cog.
You're a threat to every living being in this galaxy. If you won't surrender, I will destroy you.
Awesome. There we go, folks.
I love
great.
that. That was my
great.
favorite. My favorite scene in all of the Star Wars scenes that you have is. I don't know if you have seen any of your scenes from Star Wars.
Some I see them on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's the ending scene where you're fighting the I guess the pseudo emperor, whoever the bad guy is at that time, and you guys have a gnarly little face off, and that was one of the lines that you delivered there at the end of the game. Was a lot of good suspense. But that's from the old, not the new ones that you've done. That was the old ones. So, anyways,
awesome.
Thank you so much, David.
Well, I was just going to say there is nothing better than being paid to threaten people with my lightsaber.
Yeah, definitely.
That is the job I was born for.
I can't.
That's the David Hayter
believe we actually just interviewed one of the other people in the Star Wars games on accident. I didn't know she was in Star Wars. Her name is Joanne Wyatt, and she is actually the Imperial agent. So
cool.
We had the Imperial agent last week, and now we've got male Jedi this week. So we're flipping back and forth there. But yeah, that awesome. Game has been really amazing, and I loved your work in that. So thanks for that particular. I know you usually do just the Snake stuff, but definitely wanted to have that one in there. Again, thank you for joining us. Tell your daughter happy birthday from the Codec crew.
Will do. Thank you so much for having me, guys, and continue kicking ass, and let me know if there's anything else we can do.
Definitely. Awesome. Yong, anything else for David before we head out?
Yeah, just thanks for coming in here, man. And it's just always like an inspiration to hear from you and just the work that you've achieved. And it really influences a lot of fans and a lot of people just positively. And thank you for just being such a positive influence to so many people.
Well, thank you for saying. I appreciate that immensely. All right, guys. Much love to your audience and to you.
Yep. Definitely. Have a good day, David.
You take care.
All right. We'll see you. Bye-bye.